and welcome to our first video about libraries. We're going to look at our library website. So you can see the first thing I did here on Google is a quick search for San Juan College Library, and that brought up information about our library. So when I click on this hyperlink, because you can see there are different colors, dark blue and dark purple, it means that I clicked on this one before, and it means these are all clickable. So let's get my mouse going. So you can see it turns to a hand. Then I'm going to click on that first, and it's going to open up a new window, which I already did here, to the San Juan College Library. So as I scroll down a little bit, you'll see that they have the dates and times that they are open for you to go exploring in the physical library, and a way to search the library in general. And then this is the most important information that I can ever give you. Go talk to a librarian. So here you can see that they have a phone call you can make to ask research questions. You can email them, you can text them, or you can go on a little chat pod here with them. So that's a lot of different ways to get there, as well as you can look at your library account to see what books you have checked out and other items like that. So a lot of things at libraries are free to everyone. You just walk in and use it. But if we want to take it home, if we want to access it here while we're online, we're probably going to need to log in. So you're going to notice that my computer skips right past that. That's because I've already been on here looking at some of these resources, and so it already had me sign in. So if you have any issues with that, it is also going to give you details to reach out to tech support. Okay, so we know that the most important thing to do after we find the library is probably talk to a librarian and get some help from them. And then our next thing is to look at these possible research options. There are so many possibilities here. So we can't really do all of them, as I've made on my little note list over here. These are some that I want to highlight and look at, but I'm not going to open all of them. As you can see, they have, what is it? Here's a little blurb about it, and here's how I click to go there. So you can see that it turns from a little arrow to a hand for me, because that's how I have it set up on my laptop. But I can go to any of these. So I'm going to start over here with, there's so many options. I'm going to go here to ProQuest. And as you can see, it keeps going, doesn't it? But I'm going to go here to ProQuest. I'm going to click on that. It opens another window, and it gives me the chance to go look. So it says that I am accessing this support through San Juan College, and that I have 11 databases that it is giving me access to, which is awesome. That's the pay part. When you look at the fact that we pay not just for tuition for the classes, but we also pay fees. There's always a library fee, and it's going to cover things like all of these databases. So we're going to enter some search terms. I have decided to do my sample paper on literacy. So I'm not sure yet what my angle is. I know that when we were reading De La Peña's short excerpt in our Unit 1 section, that he talks about that idea of having read a book, that we have all read a novel, and feeling like he was outside that scope. And it really made me start to ask, what does that look like today? Are we reading novels? There's a whole sort of blow up on Threads not long ago of in 2024 of, does it count if you've listened to an audiobook? Does that count as having read the book? And I thought, yes, there's a lot of nuance to that argument, but overall, if you've experienced the book, you've experienced it, and that's super duper exciting. So there's a lot of questions, right? So I'm just going to start big. I tend to start big because you can always narrow it down later, but I want to go with literacy, and I want to go with United States, because I feel like, and as you can see, it brought up a lot of options. I feel like if I don't say United States, I'm going to get literacy around the world. And as interesting as that is, I have to start narrowing my paper down. So my first thought was, well, I want to know about literacy. I am thinking about it in terms of what De La Peña said. But if he's talking about American literacy, I also want to keep it to that space. So I'm going to look at the United States. And as you can see, it brought up supports for me. So it says that I should look at literacy rates in the United States. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to let it go and see what happens. It got me 149,000 results. Oh my goodness. So first things first, although there is a video that we're going to do on just search terms alone, I want to figure out what to do with all of this. This is too much. Like, where do I start with that? So first I see this whole little middle part. It gives me the title. It tells me that it's a scholarly journal. It gives me the authors, the volume and issue for this particular one. It gives me some info about it. It shows me that I can look at the abstract. An abstract is a wonderful place to go. It usually is 350 to 500 words about the article and the conclusions that have been drawn. So when we're looking at, say, a fiction book or a movie, they want to keep us guessing. They want us to come in, right, and really explore. So they'll often give us really exciting terms, big ideas, but they won't tell us what happens because we have to go there to see what happens. Well, journal articles and academic work, I want you to know what happens. I want you to know what I'm thinking about, how I looked into it, and what sort of my core conclusion is. I'm going to spend my whole article or book or whatever talking about those details, but I want you to get in the door knowing what's going to happen. So I'm not going to do all that cliffhanger stuff. I'm going to say, this is what I'm talking about. This is how I'm talking about it. This is the conclusion. So I'm essentially trying to give my thesis as quickly as I can. So I want my title to be really clear. I want really strong details in my abstract. And then of course here we can download to have a full copy under full text. So that is a button that's clicked right here, and I want to keep it that way. So based on this could be something, but it says literacy and educational opportunities in China and the United States. And I wanted to look at the United States, so I'm going to bypass it. So as you can tell, I'm already starting to be like, oh, is this really working for me? So for instance, this one says a phenomenological study. Yes, I said that word, phenomenological. Study of teacher experiences utilizing iReady with 5th grade, and then it keeps going. iReady must be some sort of like useful literacy-based software. Here it is. It's one of the notes down there. So it's a literacy-based software. I'm not really into that either. I want to look overall at just literacy. I'm not ready. But can you see the beginning of a thread of an idea? Like, oh, there's literacy-based software out there. I didn't know that 5 minutes ago. Like, I'm intrigued. What does that mean? You know how we're not just looking for a problem, we're looking for solutions. So maybe there are some programs out there that are working better than other programs. Or there are things like this, an online program, a literacy-based software that could do amazing things and reach more people. Like, I love to work online, so maybe that should be my angle. I'm not looking at every single thing, but I'm letting the ideas come to me. So I usually start this way by looking at the first 4 to 5 titles just to say what's out there. So for instance, this one, high school teachers' perceptions of student information literacy competency. Oh, so student information literacy, that's different than just reading. Like, I want to know about people like reading novels or reading books or feeling confident about reading. And information literacy is a little bit different. What about this one? Women entrepreneurs and financial literacy. Oh, that's another kind of literacy, financial literacy. Again, it's not what I'm talking about, but I'm getting some ideas already about what's out there. So what about this one? Investigating the relationship between parental attitudes towards reading, early literacy. Oh, this sounds like it, right? Because what did De La Peña do? First, he felt like he was one of those people on the outside because he had not read a novel, and quote unquote everyone had read a novel. But then what did he do? He shared that novel with his dad, and they both began to talk about reading and writing. So it's a scholarly journal. These are some of the authors. It's in education. It's volume 11 from 2023, so it's pretty recent. I'm going to go click on this, abstract and details. I could click anywhere here that could open it and give me some ideas on what's happening, but I decided to click there and it changes my screen. So here, oh goodness, it's not America, is it? So it reeled me in because it had a good starting point, but about Arabic literacy. So they're looking at their specific, but, okay, so we've been talking so far about what I'm interested in writing about. I'm interested in this idea of, have we all read a book? And what does that mean, this idea of I've read a novel? But what about this idea? The importance of Arabic literacy in this particular example and preserving national identity and cultural heritage. That's a super interesting idea of not just reading. Remember, we saw financial literacy, information literacy. We saw all these different kinds of literacy. This is about the literacy of preserving our identity and heritage. And that to me is really exciting because part of what De La Peña was talking about and what several of our other writers were talking about was more than just interacting with the world at large. They wanted to talk about, yes, the world at large, but how am I connecting to my people or my culture or my society? So that could be a whole nother interesting thing. No, it's not American, but if I wanted to look at literacy and national identity, I could look at what other countries are talking about and then use that knowledge to grow for my own. So now I'm torn. I think I'm going to use this button. So if I use the regular back button, who knows what's going to happen to me? I don't know where I'm going to go, but I'm going to go back to results here. So I hope you can see that this is the starting point. We open them up, we start to look at them, we start to look at what's happening. It has books that match our search. It has lots of narrowing down items, which we're going to look at in its own video. But I'm going to go back to the library one because that was ProQuest, but I want to look up opposing viewpoints. As you can see, it's opening up a new window for me, and it has a different sort of search rate. So I'm going to look up literacy rates in the United States. To see what happens. Because remember, I had the same search term. So let's see what happens if I use the same search term in a couple of places. So because I gave so much detail, I have an academic journal, news, and a magazine. So I have 111. That's pretty amazing. That's rarely going to happen to me. This is interesting because there are stories that used to teach students how to read. I don't know if we still have these because it's been a long time since I was a kindergartner. But we talk about Dick and Jane books, and they were about two people, and they were very quick and easy to read. So the idea was to have very simple words. So their names even were Dick and Jane, single syllable words. So this is from 97. It's under policy review, and then it's 6,300 words. So it kind of gives me some ideas. Here is my abstract. So remember what I said. Our abstract is about 250 to 500 words about what we're going to talk about, how we get there, and what the results are. We want to give that quick overview to everyone. Oh, so already in 1997, they were talking about disagreement on how to teach children to read is affecting literacy rates, which is super interesting. So here, instruction in phonics has been replaced by whole language techniques. So people are debating already. I've gained some knowledge. So I'm going to type over here on the side, what knowledge have I gained to help me further my research? Well, I found out that looking up literacy rates is important. I found out that I need to stick to my country. I've found out that there are two opposing ideas for learning how to read, phonics versus whole language techniques. So I couldn't have told you whole language techniques 5 minutes ago, and now I know something else. That actually reminds me of new math. I am so excited about the idea of learning new math. But it says here federal and state education authorities resist taking a position on how it should be taught. Whole language reading techniques continue to flourish in public schools, primarily because they free teachers from using repetitive drills. Oh, so it's going to talk about that. That's what he's going to talk about in 6,000 words. He's going to give us all of that information. I really want to keep it to something like that, like 6,000 words or so, because once we get to like 30 and 40 page articles, there's just too much happening, and we can't necessarily do that. So notice that when I scroll down to the bottom, I found a possible resource. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in here. So that way I am ready to go with a possible resource. It gives me the link that I need and everything. So I'm good to go with that. So I don't have to save it. I could, notice these buttons, cite it, send it, download it, print it. I love to download as PDFs, and then I like to put this information in them. but it gives me some ideas on where to go. So notice that I got different kinds of things, and I probably need to go narrow these results down, which we're going to do in another video. But I've started that process of saying what's out there, what kind of stuff should I perhaps be looking at, and already what kind of things am I getting rid of that I don't want to look at for my particular work. So these are the starting points. Watch the other videos to look at specific areas.